Hello and welcome to this Converse session, an introduction to Microsoft Teams policy-based recording technology. By way of introductions, I'm Richard Hatcher, Channel Partner Director for Geomont, and today I'm joined by Jerry.
Hi, I'm Jerry Durning. I'm the Product Manager for Verint Financial Compliance, and I look after compliance and compliance recording products.
Okay, thanks, Jerry. I'll be talking about the changing working environment and why the changes we're seeing require organisations to consider how they remain compliant when making the use of the greater features offered by Microsoft Teams. Jerry will then explain how Verint's Teams recording solution works and give us a demonstration of the system itself. We will explain some of the deployment options and discuss options for hybrid or a fully hosted service. I wanted to start this webinar by sharing some of our credentials and explaining how our two organisations came to be working together in this space. Most of you will know Verint as a market leader in the customer engagement solutions and specifically around compliance and quality recording in a variety of telephony and contact centre platforms. Geomont, meanwhile, are a specialist customer interaction system integrator and have our own portfolio of contact centre and digital engagement solutions. And we've been working with Microsoft Unified Communications for over a decade. But in the area of call recording and interaction recording, we've chosen to partner with Verint, who have consistently provided the most advanced and feature-rich solutions for recording not just calls, but all types of customer interactions for both compliance and quality purposes. Our two companies have worked together since 2012, and Geomont has many customers using Verint solutions in a variety of industries. In the area of Teams recording, Verint were one of the first few software vendors chosen to partner with Microsoft, and were able to launch an enterprise Teams recording solution on the very day that the Microsoft APIs were made generally available. Geomont does more than resell Verint software. We have a dedicated team of Verint technical experts providing implementation and support, and we've now launched a cloud-based software as a service solution delivered from Microsoft Azure that allows organisations to use Verint's team recording service without having to worry about deployment or infrastructure management. So let's take a minute to talk about Teams. Teams adoption is growing very quickly, largely driven by world events in the past 18 months. And for 145 million daily active users, it's transformed the way that we work. Collaboration across all modalities is now the norm, and voice is not the only channel of communication anymore. But let's look at some key statistics. Teams is the fastest growing business application in Microsoft history, with over 500,000 organisations using Teams globally across all industry sectors. And Teams is available in 181 global markets, supporting 53 languages. So we have significantly increased user numbers, plus we have more video and more screen sharing, more people working from home using mobile devices, which brings us to the question of compliance and quality. How do we ensure that those users who are involved with regulated activities are adhering to the rules? And how can we check the quality of the interactions that your team are having? Our view is if you cannot recall Teams interactions, you shouldn't be using Teams for regulated activities or for customer interactions. You cannot rely on the convenience recording that's included with Microsoft Teams. We're talking about a compliance and quality solution where the organisation sets the rules about what is recorded and who has access to those recordings. At this point, let me hand over to Jerry to explain and demonstrate the Verint Teams recording solution.
Thanks, Richard. So let's take a look at why is compliance recording for Teams so important and what do we mean by compliance recording? And as Richard said, we're going to dive into a demonstration and show you how it works. So why is compliance recording important for Teams? And Richard's already alluded to this. It goes without saying that Microsoft Teams is a fantastic collaboration tool. It's changed the way that we work, communicate, exchange information, and collaborate with colleagues and also with customers. But as Teams drives more collaboration across customers, employees. It's important that the organizations remain compliant with the not only regulatory, regulations, regulatory frameworks, but also with internal corporate policies and compliance culture. So this is where compliance recording comes in. So what do I mean by compliance recording? First of all, compliance recording can affect every industry in every geography and territory. We've been helping helping organizations deliver compliance recording at Verint for many years. And what we observe is there are very fixed regulatory needs to record. So if your workforce is regulated in any way, you may need to record voice, video, peer-to-peer messages, group chats, screen shares, and any type of interaction to ensure that you're compliant with regulations. The regulations state that you have to record, but also from a compliance point of view, it's not just regulations that drive compliance. So there are things like you can record for consumer protection, corporate liability, and provide evidence of transactions to limit liability and resolve disputes and protect the organization and also consumers. So there's many reasons to record, and it's not just for heavily regulated industries like financial services. So specific to Microsoft Teams, to ensure compliance, ensure that you're recording in a compliant fashion, you should be looking out for solutions that can record all modalities, so voice, video, screen share, also chat. So the Teams chat includes peer-to-peer, group chat, and of course channel conversations, and all of the modern attachments that you can collaborate with as part of the chat platforms. You're going to be looking for a solution that can record on any Teams-enabled device, so that's mobiles, desktops, phone, and also catering for automatic or automated recording. So you don't really want to rely on the end user remembering to record. It should be based on a policy that these users are recorded, when they're having conversations that should be recorded. And last but not least, one of our recent features is also providing intelligence on when to automatically record. So we work with lots of customers who may have a policy that says something like if they have to record conversations where there's an external customer, third-party consumer on as part of the Teams conversation, that should be recorded, but maybe internal calls shouldn't be recorded. So that extra level of control and administration is also really important from a solution point of view. So let's start looking at the solution. So I'm going to start to talk you through how recording works within Microsoft Teams, and also I'll show you a demonstration of it. So in terms of the logical or functional flow, as part of the Teams recording, there's the concept of a regulated user. So that's step one. And in terms of the regulated user, there's some prerequisites that you have to set up in terms of recording policy within the Teams platform, and also some administration and configuration that you can do within our solution. But Gmont can help you understand how to set up both the policy and also how to set up the corresponding configuration administration on the Verint side. But let's assume we've set up the regulated user to be recorded as part of that recording policy. When that regulated user starts a meeting, joins a meeting, or indeed any type of communication, so that's phone calls, video calls, desktop or screen share calls, if they start one or if someone calls them, in the background it's a meeting as far as Teams is concerned. And the Teams platform will perform a policy check, and if the platform recognizes that a regulated user has joined or has started the meeting, then it will auto invite our recording bot, and the Teams platform will also play or display an announcement depending on how the user joins the session. So it's play an announcement if it's voice only, it's display if they're on a client that has access to screen. So at that point in time, we've auto invited the Verint recording bot, and the recording bot's job is to record everything that regulated user sees, says, hears, shares, depending on how they collaborate and interact with Teams. We'll record everything, and we'll also post-recording manage that recording. So that recording, we'll create a recording and we will archive it in line with your compliance policy. So if you have to keep it for a certain amount of years, if you have to secure it, if you have to store it in a certain place, and we also make it available for search and replay and playback, and also compliance application features like case management or investigations or exports or things that the regulator might ask you to use to do with that recording, but also things that compliance might ask you to do with that recording as well. So with that in mind, with that flow, I'm going to show the demonstration in action. So on my phone here, I have set up a regulated user, and I'm going to let that regulated user join the meeting. So I'll just join the meeting and we'll show the recording in action. I'm going to drag in recording pane, and we can see that there's a regulated user. That's my regulated account is waiting in the lobby. I'm going to admit them. You can see that step 4, player display announcement has started. We can see Richard, if Richard gives us a wave, and I'll also give a wave, and we'll admit the regulated user. And just to show the different modalities, I'm going to put on my camera. You'll get an extreme close-up, and then I'll stop that as quickly as possible. And quickly hang up just to show the demo in action. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to show you our compliance application. Okay, so if you give me 2 secs, I'll just drag that into focus, and we can see the recordings are here. Okay, so a few things to point out. We've got different recordings here. We have the recording, the video part of the call. We've got screen share parts of the call. I'll give you a bit of an orientation around the application interface. So this is our compliance application and portal. On the left-hand side, there are lots of different search filters to allow compliance to find conversations. So that's by dates, by users, by different metadata that we capture. We can also search by things like labels, and I'll show you one in action in a second. And for things like cases, that's where there's maybe a more formal investigation where you have to take a collection of calls, maybe if there's non-compliance, and you put them in a case where they are protected. You can apply a legal hold to that case and provide access controls around that case so that they can be monitored and they can be investigated from a compliance point of view. You can also export any of the conversations to the regulator or to legal if need be. And as part of our compliance workflows and the data lifecycle of compliance, we can also store the conversations in line with your compliance policy. So there's lots going on. We've got the recordings here. Just going to show you some of our other features within the application. So this one here is an instant message that I've also recorded. So I'm going to show you this just now. So I prepared this earlier. So in this instance here, we've got the instant message player. And as part of the instant message player, we are recording a Teams channel. So our IM recording capabilities, we can record peer-to-peer messages, group messages, we can record channel messages. These are the members of the channel that have joined the Teams channel. We can see when they've joined and when they've left, and we can see the threaded conversations. So Microsoft Teams channels, as you know, it's very much modern instant messaging. It's based on a channel is essentially a chat room that where chats are persistent, and users can collaborate in terms of different threads, and it's persistent chat. So I can reply to messages that might be months old or even years old, and I can start threads myself. So in this instance here, we've got some threads where we're showing embedded links to Commsverse and Geomont. We're showing some documents that we've captured. So that's modern attachments. As part of our chat recording solution, we can capture all attachments. And also we can capture the more social aspects of Microsoft Teams. So in this thread here, we're showing that we can capture reactions, we capture edits and deletions, embedded images, emojis, and also GIFs and memes and stickers and all of the different modern attachments. So there's lots and lots that we can capture within the system. So that's instant message. If we go back here for the actual video playback, I'll show an example here of the video call. So this is just a quick example that I'd recorded this morning. And we can also capture screen share. So again, just a quick example of screen share being recorded. But all of this is recorded and then made available for compliance to work with, both in terms of managing that data lifecycle, but also applying cases for investigations or labels, let you find things quicker. I've labeled this Commsverse so I could find that instant message. And we've got an automatic labeling engine that would let you start to pre-label calls. So if you know that there's a trend of non-compliance, let's say conversations between Richard and Jerry have been marked as potentially non-compliant, anytime that we interact, they can be automatically labeled so that compliance, it's the first thing that they would look at in the morning when they come in to actually work with conversations and work through the recorded conversations from a compliance point of view. So it's just a very quick demo. We'd be delighted to give you a more involved demo and dig deeper into the architecture when we meet you at the event. So if there is anything you want in terms of a more detailed follow-up demo, please get in touch. Going back to the slides, one thing that I didn't mention or as part of the demonstration there, just because of a short amount of time, I'd mentioned it previously, we also have the concept of conditional recording. So in this flow here, the difference for conditional recording would be the bot can make a decision on when it joins a call. So you can set a recording policy within Verint that would say, I'm only recording Jerry's conversations when there's an external party involved, as an example, but not Jerry's conversations internally with colleagues. We're seeing that being used more and more, that feature that we added being used more and more with customers as Teams rolls out further beyond the back office and employee collaboration, and it moves more and more towards end customer or end consumer and colleague interactions. I'm going to show you, that's the demo slide. I'm going to show you just some different deployment topologies and architecture considerations before handing it back to Richard, who'll explain how Geomont can essentially help you with all of those considerations on how to get a Teams recording solution live. So in this instance here, I'm showing you an Azure only. So this is all hosted in Azure. This can all be hosted by Geomont, where it's essentially the same flow, but I'm showing you more of an architecture view. So if you remember back to the slide where we had the 4 steps of recording, this is step 1. Either someone's joined on the phone or someone's joined on the Teams client and a Teams call or meeting has been initiated. What happens at that point is we're inviting the recording bot. So the Teams bot works with the VFC recording server, and at that point in time, we can also reuse or use all of the Azure-based infrastructure. So that's things like Azure SQL services, Azure storage services, and also Azure AD and ADFS to both authenticate users and also minimize the amount of user administration. So we can pull in and inherit the different users, groups, roles, permissions that you have set up within Azure. The job of the application server is to service the VFC user, so that would be compliance or IT, to allow them to view and replay calls. So they'd be using the application server, and it would be securely retrieving the calls and the metadata that are stored entirely within Azure. We have a different deployment option. So this one's we call hybrid, but we understand that not all customers are ready yet to put everything in the cloud, or we might have customers who want to leverage and sweat some of the assets that they already have on premise. So in this instance, the flow is similar, but the actual architecture and infrastructure is slightly different. So we've got the caller meeting that's been started. We've got someone joining on the phone or using the Teams client. The recording bot must reside in Azure. That's one of the dependencies. That's one of the required aspects from a Microsoft point of view. But in this instance, the rest of the recording infrastructure can be where you want it to be. So we do have some customers that we work with Geomont that are leveraging their existing on-premise recording architecture. And last but not least, we also have options if you have a session border controller and you want to use that as your mechanism to record Microsoft Teams. We can also do that for PSTN in and out recording for Teams. But I think one of the things, going back to the slide on Azure capabilities and how Geomont can help solve any considerations that you have relative to how to have a fully recorded service running in the cloud. I'm going to hand you back to Richard to explain that in a bit more detail, the deployment and management considerations.
Okay, thanks, Jerry. We at Geomont, I think, recognise that every organisation that we talk to is different, and when we engage with customers, we like to find out more about their business so that we can tailor a solution to their requirements. So that, as Jerry said, there are some considerations in terms of deployment and management of a Teams recording solution. So firstly, do we stay on premise or move to the cloud? So although the Teams API uses recording bots running in Microsoft Azure, as Jerry articulated, other components can be rolled out in the cloud or on premise or using a hybrid architecture. So you might want to keep part of the deployment on premise, perhaps the recorded data is stored within an existing IT environment to provide greater control over the data management and allow for integration with other systems. Or as an alternatively, you could opt for a purely based cloud solution via a hosting partner like Geomont that makes the deployment quicker, simpler, and easier to purchase and consume as a service. Secondly, scalability. Only the most advanced solutions offer the flexibility to scale Microsoft Teams recording for numbers of users and recording transactions, while also sharing the processing across a number of different physical or virtual servers. If you need to be able to flex your recording numbers to respond to changing needs, such as increases in remote staffs, seasonal bursts, the solution must be able to offer the freedom to scale your deployment based on evolving needs. Thirdly, you also need to consider the benefits of a Teams capture solution that offers centralized administration and real-time data on the state of your entire recording solution. This can help reduce the effort and cost associated with maintenance and free up IT personnel to refocus on areas of more complex and value add. And lastly, provisioning. Managing users with adds, moves and changes is a well-known area where you can get challenges for points of failure and potential compliance gaps. So strong integration with your organization's Active Directory not only provides means for secure authentication and access control, but can also reduce the effort needed for change management and user provisioning. So we work with customers who want to manage their own infrastructure, be that their own tenant or on a hybrid basis. But we are seeing an increasing interest in a fully hosted solution where we manage the Azure environment and provide Teams recording on a software as a service basis. The benefits of such a solution are listed on the slide that we're showing here, and includes the speed of provisioning and the cost savings of not having to manage the underlying technical infrastructure yourselves. A full service that includes both the Verint software and the hosting service are bundled into a single per user per month charge, and we are able to offer flexible user numbers as the Teams environment changes over time or in line with changes to the business environment. So at this point, I'd like to thank you for your time today. And if you have any follow-up questions or would like to discuss any aspect of what you've heard or seen today, please let us know or get in touch. Thanks for joining today.